All right, what is going on, everyone? First and foremost, I want to say thank you for being here right now, watching this video. I do really appreciate you for your time, and I would really appreciate you if you do consider subscribing, because it truly does help me out a lot. Now we're gonna be reacting to this guy basically sharing his testimony about his experience in Chicago. You get what I mean? But apparently he was a Chicago gang member and whatnot. We all know Chicago, bro. Crazy place to be in, you get what I mean? Especially Old Block, man. Old Block is very famous for having, a lot of street beefs and just being a crazy area to live in and a very dangerous area to live in. You get what I mean? But yeah, man, without further ado, I'm intrigued. Saw this on my YouTube feed today. Why not check it out? You get what I mean? It is a testimony, though. I'm not sure if he's a Christian now, if he turned to Jesus or what, but I'm sure we'll figure that out in this video. So without further ado, let's just play the video and see what it's talking about, man.
Very young age, between the age of 12 and 13, I had a rough life. Chicago was a hard place to grow up. Unfortunately, I took that route. Years have passed, and I pretty much mastered the craft, so to speak, of the streets. Give my life to. I consider them like a family to me. And come to find out, they stabbed me in the back and set me up to get me killed. Hey, wait a minute, something is not right. And I had a weird feeling in my gut about this guy. All of a sudden, I looked up, and the guy looked at me with a smirk. He just kind of like evil grin, like, I got you. It was just like it was so evil, but I just remember everything moving in slow motion, and I fell back. This kind of darkness is not a darkness that's here on earth. This darkness is alive. So as I'm falling, I knew this was hell. And then I heard the screams of the people. And the first thing I noticed were these demons, things. They're the most grotesque, smelliest. Hollywood can't even get close to how these things look. They're so deformed. They have a reptilian look, reptile look to them. And their eyes were glowing yellow. Some of them eyes were red. Some of them were like 13 feet tall. Some of them were this big.
Hi, welcome to Touching the Afterlife. I'm excited to have Dominic with us today. Dominic has a powerful testimony. He grew up in Chicago on the streets in a gang. He was shot twice. He was taken out of his body and went to hell. His wife actually reached out to me unbeknownst to him so that he can share his powerful testimony. And he's bravely here today to do so. And so I'm thankful to have you hear this powerful testimony. Welcome with me today, Dominic. Hi, Dominic.
Hello. Hi. How are you? Thank you for having me today.
Oh,
Really appreciate it.
yes, I'm so thankful that you came on here to share. And so I know this is your first time sharing, correct?
Yes. Publicly on a digital platform. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So, Dominic, why don't you begin and start where you want to start?
I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, like you stated at the beginning. Um, I joined the gang at a very young age, between the age of 12 and 13. I had a rough life. Chicago was a hard place to grow up. My father wasn't around, unfortunately, so the streets became my father. And growing up like that, you have so many different influences. You don't know what's right. You think everything someone's older than you that you look up to is right. So I thought, the gang life, the gang culture, having money, everything was a righteous way to live because that's all that's programmed to us in our community. Unfortunately, I took that route. Years have passed, and I pretty much mastered the craft, so to speak, of the streets. And after a while, I just became hardened. I became a hardened person, but there was something always in my mind here and there, like the Holy Spirit would kind of whisper things in my ear, certain places, certain things that would tell me I shouldn't be at places, but, we don't listen as humans. We want to please our flesh first, and that's what ended up happening. I dedicated more of my life to the streets, more into just getting money and just being selfish. And years have passed, and I put a lot of trust into my family, which my former gang, I don't want to name the actual organization, but the street organization that I did give my life to. I consider them like a family to me. And come to find out, they stabbed me in the back and set me up to get me killed. It was pretty hurtful. It's still, to this day, I'm getting my trust back thanks to the Lord Jesus Christ. I had a lot of trust issues because of that, but the Lord has, redeemed me from those trust issues, and I'm getting better and better in trusting people again. But just to go on further to say is that it was like 2009 and on so forth that my life really started to change. I just started noticing a difference around the people I was hanging around. And one day we noticed this guy was really just following us. And Chicago was pretty big, in the uptown area especially. Just in a district alone, it's like 500,000 people just within that district. So just to see, I kept seeing this guy, and to run to a person 3 times in an hour, that's kind of impossible at home unless someone is following you. So I told my friend, I said, hey, this guy is following me. And my guy, oh, you're paranoid. Nobody's thinking about you. You're not big time like that. So I was okay. But the second time I saw him, I said, hey, wait a minute, something is not right. And I had a weird feeling in my gut about this guy. So I guess an hour had passed, and I just brushed it off. But I was coming outside my building, And I saw him again. I said, okay, I'm going to go up to this guy and ask him where I know him from. And as I approached him, he said, hey, do you have a lighter? So as I was digging in my pocket, I was going to say, sir, but then all of a sudden I saw a green flash. It was a bright green flash, and I smelled sulfur. It smelled like burning matches. That's what I remember distinctively, the smell of like matches if you would set a matchbook on fire. Um, all of a sudden, I looked up, and the guy looked at me with a smirk, and he just kind of like evil grin, like, I got you. It was just like it was so evil, but I just remember everything moving in slow motion, and I fell back. When I fell backwards, this is where the supernatural part started. This is when my life changed. When I fell backwards, everything went blank, dark. But this kind of darkness is not a darkness that's here on earth. This darkness is alive. It's a gripping darkness. I mean, it was so dark, like I'm saying, that you can blindfold yourself, put yourself under the ground, blindfold yourself again, and it still doesn't compare to this type of darkness. It's a spiritual component to the darkness that I was in. But the weirdest part was when I fell backwards, I started instantly falling forward. I was falling down face forward as I fell backwards. That was the weirdest part. That's the spiritual aspect of it. But as I'm falling, I don't even know how to measure it. They say the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. It was faster than that. It was just going. But the further I'm going down, just falling and falling, the more and more I felt like I was getting stripped of everything. I knew I was getting stripped of the things that God gave me that I took for granted, like hope, love, fellowship, patience, everything. The further I was falling down fast, everything was getting stripped from me, and I was getting more and more afraid. But this is a different type of fear. It's not a fear like here on earth. It's a different fear that you have to experience. Like the Lord says, there's a difference between reading and talking, but experience.
And I'm not gonna lie, you can tell this is very true as well. It's not like he's reading from a script, trying to get things perfect and things like that. No, he's actually, going off his mind, and actually what he's experiencing, that's what he's talking about now. And you can tell by the way he's talking, by his demeanor, by his, body language, that this is very, true is what he's saying. You get what I mean? But yeah, man, this is a crazy story so far. You get what I mean? But let's keep going.
But there's no other way. I'm trying to get close as I can to explain this. There's a lot of things spiritually that can't be put in words here on this earth, in this dimension, so to speak. But as I'm falling, I'm feeling more and more frightening. I started hearing, the first thing I noticed was laughter around me. As I'm falling, it was like this laughter, and it was like he's giggling, little but the laugh itself, they were laughing. I felt it. It was a different type of laugh. It was a demonic hatred. Like I just knew whatever was laughing at me hated me more than like with anything you can even describe. But as I'm falling, I hear this laughter. The second thing that caught my attention was this horrible smell. See, people don't realize when you leave the physical body, you still have your five senses. You still have them, but the thing is, they're upgraded, they're modified. They're very more modified. I mean, times a million. Your sight, your hearing, your vision, your touch, everything you still have those things. So this is not a fairy tale where people, been taught that when you die, you just pass away, everything's completely different. Yeah, it is different, but your senses are highly modified. But I smelled the smell, and the smell, I can even just talking about it right now. So I'm sorry if I pause a little bit because a lot of this comes back to me, and I still get a little emotional. But the smell alone is so bad, like I can't even describe it. There's nothing you can have 1,000 corpses and dead animals and whatever you want to put into the mush. It smells like Febreze compared to what I smell. In hell, the way it smells. So as I'm falling, then I noticed a little light, and it was so small, it was a pinpoint of light. And I heard, and as I'm falling, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then that's when it hit me. I knew, and I thought it was a fairy tale. I'm not gonna lie, I just thought hell was a fairy tale. I thought it was a place of fantasy. I thought it was a scare tactic used by religions. I knew, I said, I'm going to hell. See, time doesn't exist over in eternity the way it exists here. So all the time that I'm falling, people say, how would you have time? Time doesn't exist the way you can't even fathom it. Eternity, it has no time. So as I'm falling, I knew this was hell. And then I heard the screams of the people. The screams and the yells as I'm falling. And this portal, may I call it the portal, was getting bigger. You can just hear it. And I knew it had to be billions. Hundreds of millions of billions of people down there. I mean, screaming, and then their screams are gut-wrenching. The same way I heard those demonic laughs, I can feel it in my gut and feel it in my soul. Those screams were worse because it was suffering. It was blasphemous things being yelled. It was just horrible. People begging for one more chance. I mean, the thing is, when you're in the spirit, you can hear 1,000 noises at one time, but you can decipher and know each one, whether they're playing simultaneously or not. You can distinctively know and hear everything. Like I said, it's hard to explain, but that's the closest I can get to it. But as I fall and I see this portal, it looked like an old cave, like I'm entering an old cave system. Okay, and then that's when I felt the heat. See, now I'm looking back on it. It probably already was hot when I got closer to it, but I was so shocked and so terrified by everything else. I didn't pay attention to the heat until I actually got into the first portion of the portal. And then that's when the heat hit me on top of everything. It was just a bombardment of everything. And, here on earth, in our physical bodies, we feel things separately, meaning like, our nervous system. So if you get poked in your back, you get punched or something like that, you can feel it just kind of in that spot. But no, there you feel it all simultaneously at one time. Pain, everything. It's your whole body.
Bro, he's talking with mad experience, bro. I respect it, but it's like so much detail that it's insane, bro. Like, man, like it's all a lot at one time, but I understand everything that he's saying, and it takes me a while to realize some things that he's saying is like, okay, you got to think about it for like a few seconds, and you be like, all right, I know what he's talking about, bro. Like, he's talking from mad experience. Like, he knows what he's talking about, bro.
Now I'm learning I was in my spirit body. I was so used to being in my physical body, it didn't make any sense to me. But when I felt this heat, it's a different fabric. It's a different fabric of heat. It's not like how you burn your finger here. It's a spiritual component to it because it's a different type of hot. I don't even, I'm trying my best to describe the heat, but the heat is so, it is beyond. It's beyond. I mean, just say if I wanted to put it on a temperature scale, I would say 12,000 degrees and up, and nothing physical here, especially in the flesh, could withstand that. So, but as I'm falling and I enter this portal and I feel the heat, I'm hearing the yells, it's like just overwhelming. And at this time, by the time I got to the bottom, I just knew I was in hell and I knew I was going to hell. But once I passed the portal, all I remember is when I hit the bottom. I didn't feel anything when I first hit. So I'm trying to think, I was asking, was it the Lord that softened the blow when I first hit? But when I fell and I raised my eyes, it felt like I had no strength. I felt like I hadn't eaten for like months. I couldn't breathe. It was horrible. Just a feeling of just nothing. And then, but the only thing that kept coming to my mind was, and I know the Lord did this purposely, was thinking that everything that I took for granted, movement, a drink of water, just to have the ability to move my arms just freely, the ability to breathe, all the things that we take for granted, it was going through my mind. I knew it came from God. It just like, and I knew I took it for granted. And there, first thing is I look over. See, it was dark, but I'm trying to, wonder if the Lord was making me be able to see. But the flames itself were emitting so high from these pews, like these vents from the rocks. And that's another thing too I want to add. I don't want to move too fast, but one thing I do want to add. For some reason, I knew I was still here on Earth. I still knew I wasn't in outer space somewhere. I wasn't under space. I was in a different dimension, but I was still on Earth. I knew that. I knew it's here on Earth. So the Lord is right. Hell is a place on Earth. The scriptures are right. It is here on Earth. It's just a different dimension. So as I'm looking around and I'm just already, but I see when the flames, they come up and then you can see the illumination from the flames. You can see. And the first thing I noticed were these demons, things. They're the most grotesque, smelliest. Hollywood can't even get close to how these things look. They're so deformed. They had legs and twisted arms, but they had a reptilian look, a reptile look to them. And their eyes were glowing yellow. Some of them eyes were red. Some of them were like 13 feet tall. Some of them were this big. They're everywhere. And it's just bugs, there's spiders, there's just everything. But what really caught my attention were these pits everywhere. And this one demon glanced at me and he started laughing. But down in the pits were just people. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just people. But then I thought it was just one pit. As you really look around and the flames illuminate all of the space around, there's, I would say, hundreds of thousands of pits. And then within each pit are thousands of people. Okay, and then around the pits, you have nothing but these grotesque demon reptilian or reptile-like things, making sure they don't crawl out. It was horrible. You have people who look like bone. I would say they look like bones. Some of them were bones, but actually flesh hanging off, which is incomprehensible to some people to even imagine how, but the things that I saw and the tortures that I saw is that you regenerate. So just say if your arm falls off, it'll grow right back so you can get tortured again. It's a place of pure torture, like torture. Hell is it's no relief. There's nothing. But as I'm looking at this one demon, he was about 8 feet tall. He looked at me and laughed. And then all I remember was these thousands of maggots, worms, and they're like thick. They're thick. They're thick as soda cans. Okay, they're not like regular maggots here in this dimension. They are thick and they're big, and they started to chew at my feet. And then once it was a few of them, when I looked down, it was hundreds of them. They started to make a mound around me up to my knees of these demonic maggots. I don't even know how to explain it. But that was the least of my worries because I felt getting a hand picked me up from the back of my head and it flung me. It flew. Now, as I flew, okay. Now remember, you have no energy. There's no nothing. Even just when I laid down, I couldn't get back up. But now I'm realizing, in hindsight, that the Lord was with me because a lot of these demons, they wanted to attack me. They wanted to rip me apart, and I can just feel the hatred that they have for mankind, the hatred that they have for us. It is beyond anything. It is beyond, and you can feel it's ancient, and you can feel it is powerful. It is power in their hate. It is so powerful. Yeah. All right, 1 second. Okay. Because people don't understand that these demons feed off our depression. They feed off our anxiety. They feed off our aggression. They feed off our hate. They just feed off of us. So that's why they call us in the background. They don't have the power to make us do it, but they have the power to influence situations that make us do these things. And they feed off that. And that's one thing I've learned, the hatred for us. That's why I love all mankind, because the hatred they have for us, it would make you love all mankind and stick together against these beings. Really. We have, all the divisions that are caused are just an illusion, But yeah, that's one thing. That's what I learned from that. But as I was laying on the ground, I'm sorry, I just had to just reiterate that point. But as I'm laying and I can't get up, and the thing is, in reality, I wasn't breathing because there's no oxygen down there. I think it was more mental, psychological, because I was so used to being in the physical. So I'm trying to breathe, and I'm realizing. So I'm barely standing up, and that's when I think the Lord showed me it was the whole hell of this section, because hell has sections. I'm going to explain that soon. It has many sections. It was illuminated for me where I can just see everything. And when I tell you the tortures, wow, I mean, it is beyond the stretch of your imagination. And people say, why would God let that happen to us? Why did God send you there? Why did they blame God? But they never blamed the enemy for anything when they were here on this earth. But one thing that I noticed when you're in hell and when you're eternally in the spirit body, you can look at a person inside hell and you know why they're there. You instantaneously know, you know why that person is there. I've seen people there for unforgiveness. I've seen people there who thought they were the best in the church saying, why did you do this to me? I've seen pastors there. I've seen even some preteens in hell. I've seen a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing, but they're no. Like, for example, the first lady who I saw getting tortured individually, not the people in the pits. There were two demons, and they were laughing, these reptile things, and they had her mouth, and they stretched her mouth so far back, like to rip her jaws open, and they were pouring lava down her throat and sticking her throat with spears and just like these old ancient looking rusty daggers, and they were getting a kick, and it was horrible. But then the fact is, she turned the bone, she was breaking up, and then she would rejuvenate. And they would do it all over again and over again and over. And they were taking turns. They were inviting other demonic spirits. They were laughing. They were having fun torturing this lady. And when I looked, and I really knew, this has to be the Lord, I already knew why she was there. She was there because not only was she a gossiper, she was gossiping about people. She got many people life turned because of her tongue, and she was an alcoholic. And I'm starting, there was a theme in hell I started to notice, because people commit a lot of sins on a wide spectrum. But the one that sticks out the most is the one that's going to rectify, that you're going to get inside hell. So let's say, a person who is promiscuous, and that's another one. I'm going to keep it not explicit, but I saw a young lady in hell. There were demons literally taking turns having sex with this woman. And when I say it's not regular sexual intercourse, it was beyond mind. I mean, I can't say too much to describe, but all I can say is that she was very promiscuous when she was here on this earth, and they were torturing her in ways that you can't even imagine. So, yeah, I was just saying the biggest sins that I started noticing that pattern. The biggest sins that you have, because like I said, everybody sins on different spectrums and think it's nothing. No, everything counts. Everything counts. And it's not God, our Father, up there taking a list of you. It also says in the Bible that the flesh will testify against itself. So people, that is real. Your flesh testifies against you. Your flesh, you desires. That's why he always tells us to get away from pleasing our own flesh, because we're going to put ourselves there. The Lord cries, the Lord heart aches for us, every one of us that go to hell. He does not want that. He does not want that for us at all. It really tears him apart to see us in that predicament. But just back to the tortures, unfortunately, that was only one section. And I thought, and that's mind blowing. That was only one section with the pits. So I thought that, no. And I think the Lord was with me. I don't know if anybody ever had a dream before where you couldn't see the person's face, but you know somebody was there standing with you. I know the Lord was with me, but I never saw him. But I knew he was the one directing me and protecting me, because these things wanted to eat me and tear me apart. But the second thing I remember is another section of hell. And that's another thing. When you move in hell, there's no really walking around. When he's showing you, it was like you instantaneous, it's like teleportation. When I teleported to this other part of hell, okay, I saw these cells, okay, and I grew up in skyscrapers, uptown Chicago. grew up on the 16th floor, and these things were taller than that. These things had to be 50 stories tall, and it was a row of them all the way as your eyes can see, looking up. And they're open old bar cells, and there are people in them. There are people in them. Some of them look like skeletons. Some of them were just burned like to a crisp, and they're cursing God, and they were just very angry to be there. There was no repentance. There was no asking for another chance. Those are the ones who were just very angry at our Lord. They were very angry. Some of them even started looking like almost a reptilian look because of the hatred coming out of them. And also, I noticed some of them been there for thousands of years. See, that's the thing. People don't understand. Time doesn't exist in eternity. It doesn't. The clock stops. And I realized that. I saw people there who were there 2,000 years, 4,000. You just know the ancientness of it. I saw all different languages. It doesn't discriminate. The devil doesn't discriminate at all. The whole end point is to get you there. That's it. So all of this, while we're messing around with racism, we're messing around with judging others off economic status, which is just an illusion, by the way. It's about spiritual currency. It's an illusion and it's a trap to get us there. And when I saw those cells, that's when things started to awaken to me. I saw mostly those who were in those cells were people who dabbled in witchcraft, those who dabbled in Santeria, those who dabbled in all kind of tarot cards, those who wanted to know the future and astrology. I just know, like I told you, once you go there, you know. You can just look at a person and you know while they're there. And mostly I saw there was a thing to those people in those cells, and those are the people who worship other gods, or the doctrines of demons, is what they call also in the scriptures. And what's so terrifying about that is that here, because I have my brush with Santeria, unfortunately growing up, and they promise you everything materialistically, but what they don't tell you is once you worship these demons, now that I know they are, I didn't know that before. They make it seem like they're positive, they're good, they're here to help mankind. The 9 principalities, and they give you all the wealth you want. You do these rituals and stuff, but you don't realize you owe them, and what you owe them is beyond this earth. You're gonna have a spot. They have a spot waiting for you. It reminds me of people who say, "Well, I didn't know the law. I didn't know." But if you go to court, you.
I'm saying, bro, like they try to cover it. They try to cover up all the evil and tell you good things simply because you don't have any knowledge in these things. And you want these worldly things. You want love, you want money, you want all this stuff that has to do with the world. And it's just like, you're so desperate for it. You just go to these, demonic spirits or demonic entities. And you're just like, okay, they tell you everything you need, but they don't actually tell you the truth. You get what I mean? They cover it up and try to make it seem all rainbow and sunshine until you actually start to realize, okay, like, and some people it's too late, bro. It's too late for some people. They realizing it's too late. That's all I'm gonna say, and time passes them by, and they realize they can't live forever, so they pass away, and then they never really realized what they were doing until it's too late, is basically all I'm trying to say. But overall, bro, we all know Satan gives you materialistic things. We all know that, man. If you want something materialistic so bad in the world, bro, just go to Satan, bro. He's gonna give it to you, but it doesn't come without a price, bro. And that's just the way it goes. But let's get back to it.
Still go to jail. Ignorance is not a way out of it. You all. So I'm just telling you, watch what you do. Watch what you convert, because psychics and all of these mediums and things of that nature, of course, they're going to tell you things that are right on purpose, because they call it familiar spirits, which I saw them ascending and descending from hell. But I will get to that too. But just be careful, you all, playing with witchcraft, any astrology, any things of that nature, because they have a place just in hell for you. And also the Lord told me that this place grows every day. Actually, it's growing by the second. It's like hell is alive. It is a place that it is a dimension that is alive. You can even feel it. The ground of hell, it moves in waves. It's like a wave. You can feel it under your feet. It's as if, it's like kind of like breathing, but I wouldn't consider it breathing. But it just had a component the same way the darkness has. It was alive. It is alive. That place is alive. But as I'm looking at the cells, all of a sudden I feel again. Now this time I'm standing on the cliff, and I'm looking down, and it looks like a gray area, and it's like dead trees. It's just like a abandoned forest, a dead forest, but it had a path on it. And on the path, there was people, it was, as far as the eye can see, they were all chained together. They were all chained up, and they looked like pure skeletons. None of them had flesh on them at all. None of them, and they were all chained together. But then as you look further ahead to where they were going, it was gates. And it was a wall that was so high, and the gates were so high that it was, I couldn't understand. But then I felt something say, look again. I looked. Those were the gates of hell. So the place that I thought was already hell wasn't even the beginning. It wasn't even the beginning. See, I don't want people to understand. And that was just the intro. I thought I was in hell already, but no. The gates of hell, and people were marching in chains. So it's like they were going through the place that I was at was before hell. But then it was something so more extreme at the gate once you hit the real dimension in the gates of hell. Now that I was already terrified beyond being terrified. Okay, there's nothing on this earth that can even calibrate your mind of the fear that you already feel. Because even when I was there, I'm going to remind people here on earth, okay, you can be going through the toughest situations, whether if you're in a hospital, whether if you're in incarceration, but you always have people to communicate with. You always have fellowship. In that dimension, you can be right next to a person, there is no communication because that fellowship comes from God. Just to be able to communicate with someone, just to be able to talk, just to be able to have that comradeship, that bond, that comes from God. So that is stripped away from you. There's no talking to anyone. There's none of those things. So I think I was in pre-hell, but it strips you and gets you so afraid to go to the real experience. And I thought that was the real experience. Okay. And the chain of people, it was so long. It's so long. And as I looked, it kept getting longer, growing. And I remember as I looked around, there were other people standing on the cliff with me. I didn't even pay attention, but they were along the edge, right into my left, that circled the cliff. And you heard the people, the skeletons were looking back, telling us, do not come. They were screaming, like some of them recognized their family members, some of them recognized certain people, and they were telling them, get out of here, do not come here. Please don't come. And I heard things from different languages. I heard stuff in Arabic because I know Arabic, I know Spanish, and I was hearing different and from all cultures, I promise. And they were telling everybody, don't come here. But the fact is, in my mind, I think the Lord put in my heart and said, it's not our choice no more. It's not up to us. He gave, that time is over with. That's why we need to make use of our time. That's why I tell everyone who I talk to, and I even recommend, I call it the time challenge. Okay. All you do is take a sheet of paper and you put world on it and you put God on it. And each day you ask yourself, but this is for your own personal use only. You don't have to show no one else. Who had more of your time today? Was it God or was it the world? And at the end of each week, you see who won your time. That'll put a better perspective of where you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with. You know, I learned so many things. I learned more things in hell. It brought me closer to God than anything I learned on this earth. So I'm glad he gave me the opportunity and brought me out of that. Now, the fortunate part was I made it up to the gates of hell, but he snatched me away. He didn't let me go past. But one thing I can tell you, it is a real place. It is beyond the descriptive imagination that I'm just telling you. And I thought the part that I was in was hell. And that was hell. Trust me, it's nothing like it. But this even gets worse. How you can't even fathom that. So you all, every day, every moment, eternity is on the other side of each moment. I want people to pay attention to this. Every moment, eternity is on the next side. Unfortunately, I just lost another friend. We lose a lot of people monthly. What we do, spiritual warfare, we lose a lot of people. And they always had plans to grow. They always had plans to change. And I keep telling people, God is not a diet. He's not a diet. You know people, what I mean by that, you know, people say, well, I'm going to start eating right next week. I'm going to start next Monday. I'm going to start my diet. And a lot of people do that with God. Well, I'm just going to do this week, and then next week I'm going to start following the Lord and start getting it right. Well, you're not promised 5 seconds, so how can you do that? Eternity is waiting for you on each second, each moment. And when I tell you hell in the spiritual life is more real than this life, the sensations of filled, all your sensations, everything is magnified times 1,000,000. It is more realistic than this. So I just want people to take it beyond serious. I need people not to just put God first, put them in the center of your life, in the center of everything that you're doing. Because hell is waiting for you. And the whole point, and a lot of things that I learned when I was in hell, when I was telling you about the familiar spirits and a lot of the spirits and a lot of the giants, there's so many giants there. There's so many different, hell is highly organized, you all. Hell is organized to a T. They have soldiers for everything. Every addiction, there's a ranking in the army for that. Lust for there's a ranking in the army for lust. Everything, hatred, gossip is organized. And a lot of these things we think is us, but it's really not. But we get attacked and influenced by these things is because we don't have the protection of the Holy Spirit. And when I was in hell, I clearly learned, I saw these they call familiar spirits. They come from hell and you can see them descending and you know where they're going. They turn to it like a mist. They go back and forth because they're reporting, monitoring spirits as well. They're going all over the place. They go back and forth. They call familiar spirits because everyone, when you're born, you're sent an agent, a spirit, a demon who monitors you, who watches you, who knows your every move, who knows your diet, knows your likes, your dislikes, your comforts, your discomfort, know everything about you. It's kind of like data mining, what the government does. And what happens is if you have a psychic, that's what they call mediums, okay? They don't know nothing about you, but what happens is their demon or familiar spirit is communicating with the other person's familiar spirit. So it makes it seem like the medium or the psychic knows about you, but there's nothing but two demons communicating with each other, telling the medium about you. It's all a trap. It's all a trap. That's why you test every spirit, test everything, because I saw in hell, like I'm telling you, these things are everywhere and constantly. It's so fast. They're constantly so back and forth, sending messages, and they report. They have leaders, they have captains, they have generals that they report to. And the Lord showed me all of these things. And people, one thing too, do not get comfortable in any situation. What I mean by that, you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I know every day is a fight for me, every day. Because after I had my first experience, when I came back to, thank the Lord.
But yeah, man, I'm gonna end this video here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. But yeah, I do understand what he's saying. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable doing the uncomfortable, and that goes for anything. You get what I mean? Whether that's trying something new, whether that's working out for the first time, trying to get in shape, you get what I mean? It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing process. You get what I mean? So it's just like, if you want to get in shape, you have to keep doing it, consistently. You get what I mean? And it's not going to be comfortable, but you got to do it every day. And it's to the point where you got to get comfortable doing the uncomfortable. And at that point, it starts becoming a consistent thing for you to do. And you start getting, okay, this isn't nothing once you keep doing it more and more every single day. And that's what he's saying when with the Bible, with God, you get what I mean? With getting closer with God, you might not want to do it. You might seem, I'm going to do it next week. And things like that. You might make any excuse, just like you would make any excuse for going to the gym, right? But once you actually start, okay, like I actually have to do this, and you start to get hit with the hard realization that, okay, it's time for me to actually take this big leap and actually start, getting closer with God, or start actually taking care of myself, and I have to go to the gym every single day, or I have to read the Bible every single day and try to get closer with God for my soul, to save my soul and things like that, bro. It's just like a great example, you get what I mean? So you have to be very comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that goes for anything in life, you get what I mean? Nothing's easy, man, but at the end of the day, once you get used to it, it starts to become easy. And yeah, man, but without further ado, I mean, I have put it in the best context, but I put it in the best, and I explained it the best way I can, pretty much. But without further ado, gonna end the video here. Let me know what you guys think. I really enjoyed this video. This guy did a great job explaining his testimony to everybody. Hopefully, pretty sure this impacted a lot of people. A lot of people did saw this video, like 1 million in a month. I don't know, man, but yeah, man, very powerful testimony. But without further ado, peace out, man.